The idea of silent prayer fills me with joy. I think the silence, praying in silence, means that I don't need to focus so much on the words. And it's also about bringing out what's inside, so feelings and emotions, colours, all those sort of things you can do in silent prayer, because you don't have to find the words. Finding the words at times can be difficult.
So I've thought in order to pray I should be able to be quiet and still and peaceful, and I'm often not, especially when I'm stressed or anxious. The last thing I want to do is be inside my head.
Often I don't know how to cope with group silence and I want to laugh.
I've been able to find the stillness and the peace, but that's been a long, painful journey to realise that silence wasn't always encountering my inherent sinfulness, that silence was where God dwelt and I could sink into that.
When I pray, I think it's not just a time for communicating or offloading, but also for listening and hearing what God is saying to me. And what is God saying to all of us?
Yes, silent prayer does fill me with both joy and dread. I think the dread is I'm not really very good at being still sometimes, and but the joy is that when I get to a place of silence, you do really meet Jesus, and you do really meet the presence of God. The dread is sometimes it's quite hard work to get there. I think we live in a very noisy world, and I'm easily distracted. The prayerful written liturgy for me brings me so much life, because I feel like it articulates some of the words that I can often not articulate myself. It gives me a language when I sometimes don't have a language. It also connects me to the past. So I like the idea of the history of it, the fact that, I'm praying the same prayers that other people prayed in other places.
I don't mind it. I mean, I can find it life-giving. But for me personally, as long as it's not the sole diet of prayers.
I think there's a lot to be said for the repetition and consistency in helping to formulate. So if we think of how children respond to school and learning, lots of that's about repetition and doing the same thing over and over again. So how do they learn to read? How do they learn to sound out sounds? There's lots to be learned from doing the same thing over again and having a plan.
Repeated liturgy for me is quite difficult. One of the reasons for that is I come from a very low church background where it wasn't used so much. As I've got older and been in churches that have used it more, I can see for some people it's really useful. And for me occasionally it can be useful, but it's not really my thing.
With liturgy, with specific steps to prayer, the rebellious nature in me my heckles can come up. I can be resistant to people saying this is how you should have relationship with God. However, liturgy for the Doctor Who fans is a spacey, wacy, timey-wimey thing. When we step into liturgy and the words and the rock of thousands of people who have gone ahead of us, we step into exactly the same space. We connect with all of those people from hundreds of years ago who faithfully prayed those same prayers. So there's part of me that resists it. I am, after all, a Methodist. I do like to rebel. I do like to say, is there a different or a better way? Liturgy does tie us into certain language, certain images of God that we repeat even when some people find it helpful. But in terms of spacey, wacy, timey-wimey, when we do the liturgy of the communion, we're doing the liturgy and the language and the storytelling of the people who sat in the upper room with Jesus. It's magic in a super Christian, non-magical way.